Okay, so we are completely finished the construction now, ready for painting. I've remasked the canopy because that was getting a bit tatty, so I just wanted to make sure the line's all good. I've come in here and just sorted out the wing roots here using just a little bit of plastic card and some filler. I find this stuff really useful. If you mix up Tamiya extra thin and some white plastic card, what happens is you can get this plastic filler that is really good for little filling jobs. So that's just mixed up into whatever consistency you want. So it's just simply plastic card and some Tamiya extra thin. So I use that just to fill in some of these little gaps in here. So I've sorted out the wing roots, so I'm pretty happy with this. I use some milliput as well to fill in these gaps on the undercarriage doors. Probably could do another little layer, but I'm quite happy with that as it is. Just sanded it down and just re-scribed around the outside and used the pen just to make sure that they're all alright, but they're not too bad. What I've also done here is I've drilled a hole in here and I've inserted a tube down inside underneath this panel so that my 6mm rod just sits nicely in here. Okay, and so that will go in there for the in-flight display, but we'll look at that in a later video. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to come in now and I'm going to prime this. Now, two schools of thought really. This snapped off during the prep and I've just glued that back on, so I just want to line that up nicely before it goes off completely. Come in with a sander on there. This little bit here often would get snapped off. In my case, I've snapped these front pieces off a couple of times and I had to glue them back on. I'm just not very good at just being that careful. So there are two methods that I could use now when we come to preparing the plane for paint. The first method would be to give it a grey primer and then use what we call pre-shading along the panel lines with a black paint before we lay down the main colours to give it a nice effect. Or we could come in and give it a completely black primer coat and then what we call black basing, and then we can build the upper layers up from there. What we're trying to achieve is a relatively weathered, worn effect. Both have their merits, but you know, I've started to err really towards the black basing method with my aircraft now. So I'm gonna, with this one, I'm gonna do black basing. I'm gonna come in with a black primer. This is Stynal Res. This is my primer of choice. I mean, you could use another primer, but I really find this stuff really good. So this is what I'll be using for this build. Okay, so let's get on with the airbrushing. Stynal Res is quite thick, and on the instructions it recommends that you use a larger needle, so maybe a 0.5 nozzle on your airbrush, and spray at about 20 to 30 psi, which is what I do anyway. In my Evolution airbrush here, I mean, I've got two needles. I've got a 0.4 and a 0.2. In here at the moment is a 0.2. Now I found this will, if you push the pressure up, this will go through this airbrush. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to change over to my 0.4 needle so that we can get the flow going a little bit better. Now I have experimented in thinning this stuff, and so I've decanted it into a bottle and I've thinned this 50-50 with some life colour thinner. I find it works okay, but I'm going to attempt this neat. I've also put an agitator in there, so stainless steel ball bearing to just get the paint moving, because this stuff is quite thick. So I'm going to give this a really good shake, change my nozzle over, and then we'll get on with spraying. We're just going to put our Stynal Res in, just a little bit to begin with, just check our flow. So we've got good flow and paintwork. I'm going to come in now. I'm just going to cover the whole thing the best I can with paint. So I will come in with a very light coat first of all, let that dry, and then I'll come over it again. Okay, so that's the underside sort of prime. Just going to give it another light coat in a second. But what this primer is really good at, so it's really good at covering. It lays down beautifully flat. Even if you pull it a little bit, it self levels, and it's really good at going down. It gives you a nice satiny matte finish. Shows up all the detail, so you can come in and you can see anywhere where you need just to come in and maybe redo some scribing, or where some rivets need redoing, and it just shows up any little mistakes that you may have made. And so really good idea to give it a good prime, and in the black under this light it really shows up every imperfection. Here we've given the Dora a good coat of black stynol res. I'm going to leave that to dry for a little while, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint the underside first, and then do the top camouflage after that. So we're really starting to get to the nitty-gritty end, and I quite like this stage of just doing the main paint work. And then we get to the worst bit, which is adding the decals. Okay, so now we're going to come in and we've done the black basing. We're going to come in and do the undercolour up and up the side of the fuselage using RLM 76. So this is Mr. Colours number 417 acrylic colour. So we're just going to mix this into our airbrush. So I'm using Mr. Colour self-leveling thinner. And I'm going to use quite a thin mix. So I've just put a little bit of colour, so it's quite watery, quite thin. Just float. Okay, that's good. Now the aim of this is, what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to do a marbling effect all over the bottom of this aircraft. So what I'm going to do is going to come in quite close. First of all, creating a random pattern over the entire thing. So what you'll be able to see there, I've created a pretty random pattern so far. So I'm going to cover the whole of the bottom of the aircraft with a similar sort of pattern, trying to keep it as random as possible. so we've done the first coat of the black basing here. We've come in and we've given it a good marbling all over where the light blue is going to go. I've left the cowling for the moment and the fuel tank. We'll do those separately, but I'm pretty happy with that. Now I've left some areas here where this is going to be yellow, so we're going to come in now, and now we're going to give it another coat, and this time we're going to use another really thin layer over the top just to dull that effect down. So I've run out of my hobby colour RLM 76. I've just ordered the colours for the top half, thinking that I had enough of this, but I don't. Luckily I do have some extra acrylics RLM 76, different brands. This is another water-based acrylic. This one I think is more alcohol based. You know, you can their thinness is a little bit more stronger than this stuff, but some people don't like this. I mean, it does dry with quite a glossy finish, which isn't too bad because it just helps the decals go down. But also some people just don't like the way it thins. They don't particularly like this paint at all. I don't mind it. It's not my first choice, but the key is thinning. If you thin it properly, you don't have too much problems. It doesn't thin at all well with you know, Mr. Hobby Colour or with X20A. I always thin the extra acrylics either with their own thinner or Life Colour thinner, I find does well as well. So I'm just going to give a nice watery mix with this. Actually, this is going to create, you know, a slight variation in the colour anyway, so which is what we want, because we want a nice weathered aircraft. Okay, so for the Dora so far, what we've done then, we've come in and we've done the underside of the RLM 76, and you may be able to see just the variation that the black basing gives you in the top coat here. So I really like the way that it just varies, and down the side here as well, you can just, there's just some really nice variation within the paintwork, which will, you know, this will tone down a bit once you weathered it as well, so it may look a little bit stark in places like here, but that'll weather down as well. We have a bit of a problem now. So although I've done the bottom, I ordered some paint for the top camo. from modelhobbies.co.uk, and the decals for this thing well over a week ago now, and they still haven't arrived. I'm slightly worried that they may have got lost in the post, so this one's going to be on hold until they arrive. What I have done though, I've ordered some new paint from somewhere else, so I can at least then get on with the paintwork. But it's a real pity that I think they've gone missing, but you never know. So I have had things turn up in the post a little bit late before, so you never know. But hopefully they'll come within the next few days. Otherwise we're a bit stuck. So that's that so far. So the next video we're going to look at, hopefully when the paint's arrived, is how we use the black basing with a two-tone camouflage and some mottling as well. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video.